than all of us. Now, here's your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be back here today on Divine Love Talk. I know there's been a bit of a irregularity with Kim doing a workshop in Holland, and you also just came back from Estonia doing a workshop. Is that correct,
right.
Kim?
Right.
Okay, and I'm also very excited to be finishing up part 2 of Warrior of Peace. And I wanted to say, Kim, you've been really busy, and in a couple of weeks you're going to be even busier coming out to do a conference here in Los Angeles at the beautiful Americana on Brand. It's going to be a very lovely atmosphere to hold a conference on love. So Kim, I'm getting very excited about you coming out and allowing the Ascended Masters to use you to anchor the ray of love over Los Angeles. Certainly we could learn a lot more about love and peace. So today on the show, Kim, I'd like to take up a couple of, I think, pretty cogent points in terms of being peaceful. Today we're going to talk about controlling other people and violence against the self. So, Kim, I'm going to open up with an amazing quote from your book that says, okay, if I think I have to control other people, I will always be in a struggle against them. Now that, I'm going to have to put on one of those Facebook posters and blow it up for everybody, because almost everybody I see has some kind of control issues. If they're not trying to control time, they're trying to control other people. They're trying to control the way the world turns. It's a major issue. So I'd like for us to open up on that issue, because your book, Warrior of Peace, covers so many relevant inner struggles that we are all going through today that keep us in a place of anti-peace or non-peace.
Yeah, and really the control issue is a very big one, and I can see in myself how I have gone through at least some progress on the issue in the past many years, because I also, when I was younger, I had a need to control much more because my self-image was much more fragile than it is today. Of course. And so you're always trying to control other people in order to protect your self-image. And that's probably has, for me at least, been the biggest challenge. I mean, everybody's a little bit different in what control games we have been brought up with. Many of us have taken over these control games from our parents just by imitating what they have been doing.
Well, okay, but Kim, could you elaborate on, that's an interesting take of using control. I don't get the whole thing about your image. Can you clarify that for the audience?
Well, we all have, I think it's a basic human need to have a certain image of ourselves that says we are okay. Okay. And it can be a little bit different depending on what environment we've grown up in, what we consider to be okay or an acceptable or a good person or whatever it is. Okay. So we all grow up having this sense of, if I behave like this and if I don't behave like that, and if other people don't do this to me or don't say this about me, then I'm okay. And it can be so easy to go into this game of really trying to control other people and their opinion of us. Okay. Because we're insecure about how we look at ourselves.
Okay, so that would be related to maybe the need for approval?
Yeah, and validation.
And validation. Okay, well, yeah, that's very, very common today with young people and the whole peer pressure thing. But when you were talking about it as a young man, having that need to control, the whole Piscean era was about some huge war on control. Would you say? I mean, that was a dominant theme.
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, we are, of course, living in a world where there is a certain elite that wants to control the population, and they do this by setting up ideals for how we are supposed to see ourselves as human beings. And of course, in the age of Pisces, it's true that one of the challenges we were facing as a race was whether we would allow this elite to control us and control our self-image. And they did to a large degree through religion, through politics, through science, and any other way they could use.
Yeah, and of course, you know, it's still holding on pretty strong, but the good news, as I pay attention to the trends, is questioning the people in authority and, you know, getting to the point where they're actually here in America frustrated about the fact that you can't hold them accountable for anything. They're kind of like a slippery eel, you know. They can create the laws, and then if anyone other than them break it, they need to go to jail. But I mean, the people in power can steal big and create huge atrocities, and you know, they make money off of it.
Yeah, they even make the people feel responsible for it. Like, for example, the debt problem, which is very up in times right now. You know, it's clear that the Greek people have some accountability for the way their nation have been developing, but do they really have the accountability for the entire international debt problem?
Exactly. When nobody consults them about how much is going to be spent on war or whatever. At least I don't remember anybody ever consulting me about the national budget.
Probably not, no.
I would have a little bit to say in that area, you know, about more spending on education and children and, you know, healthy causes. That's probably why they don't ask me. But, yeah, I think how can you hold people accountable when they haven't had any real hand in that process?
Yeah, but on the other hand, that's what we need to change then by taking back our power to be part of the government instead of staying outside of it and pretending like there's nothing we can do.
Well, you know, that's a good point, Kim. I'm looking, when I look at politics, and you know, the whole book, Warrior of Peace, is about, you know, this inner struggle and our reaction to what's happening around us. So when we're talking about, okay, how do we participate, you know, more meaningfully in the government, we're talking about catch-22, because here in America we know that, you know, if you look at previous presidential elections, especially with Bush, the votes didn't count. And they didn't matter. They were just thrown out. And so the system is so corrupt, how do you even try to work within it?
Yes, and you can't. And that's what one of the more subtle points in the book Warrior of Peace is that you have two ways to go. You can either enter the dualistic struggle, and that's why what you're saying, then it's a catch-22, and you end up feeling powerless, because what can you really do? You can't fight City Hall.
Yeah.
And so what the Warrior of Peace says is that if you first go through the process of learning to control your own mind, then you'll find a whole different way to look at society's problems, and then you can speak out in a different way with a different voice.
Well, you know, I would really like for you to elaborate on that, because you do talk about that in the book. But in terms of the audience, you know, giving them more, you know, the people who are on a spiritual path, what does that look like in terms of moving out of social protest, you know, and getting out and waving a flag? I still think that attention needs to be brought. You know, the masses need to bring attention to these problems in order for the people in power to finally, you know, ultimately, and it takes forever for them to say, oh, we better give the people what they want. We better throw them a little bone. You know, how do we get there? Do we move spiritually, you know, as a warrior of peace out of, you know, the peaceful protest and into what? You know, what would you say to the audience?
Well, the whole idea of the Warrior of Peace and of the teachings of the Ascended Masters in general is that we are not powerless because we can raise our own consciousness. And if enough people do this, we will pull up the collective consciousness.
Okay.
We also have the options of working with the Ascended Masters to make specific calls for that it will have a wide-ranging effect on a lot of things. But also, what the point of the book is that when we do purify our own minds of these tendencies to struggle against an enemy, which is exemplified in the process that the warrior goes through in the book, where the master gradually takes him beyond this tendency to struggle against the machine, as the warrior calls it, which is what we are talking about, the power elite. Right. And then we are able to speak out in a different way. And you have mentioned yourself before on the show that Martin Luther King was one of your real mentors and inspirators. And to me, he was an example of a different voice. So was Nelson Mandela. Right. Unfortunately, of course, Martin Luther King didn't live long enough to go through it. But if you look at Nelson Mandela, you see that he actually went through a process.
That's true.
That is very much like what the warrior is going through in this book, where he freed his mind from the dualistic struggle, and he ended up forgiving the people who had imprisoned him. Yes. And that is why his words carried a whole different weight and a whole different tone than those who are always fighting and arguing and wanting to put other people down.
Right. Oh, well, that's a very, very important point, Kim, because, I've lived long enough to see I remember Nelson Mandela being imprisoned and all of the years of people protesting to get him out. And then when I saw the movie about him, his biography, I was so touched and moved. Well, not even just the recent biography, but the one called Invictus that was based on my favorite poem, where he really was transformed by a lot of the words in that poem while he was in prison. But he definitely was a radical social activist at the beginning of his life versus the middle and the end.
Yeah, he started out that way much more, and then he was gradually transformed because he saw, I think, that wasn't really the way to always struggle. You can go further back in history. You have Gandhi in India, who also found a nonviolent way to protest. And it really, when you think about how entrenched the British Empire was in its superior mindset, it was totally amazing what Gandhi accomplished in India. And I think it should be hope for all of us that we can also accomplish things in our time.
Well, what's really beautiful about that, because, I watched that whole thing, too, and was very much inspired, by Gandhi. But, there's something about, the consciousness of the people from India in terms of moving around and supporting a spiritual leader versus, at one point we did have that support with Martin Luther King, but the wave of apathy that you see, here in America in great numbers, makes me wonder if something like that could even be possible here.
Yeah, that is a good question.
At this time, at this time frame.
Yeah, unfortunately, what you often see is that there has to be some trigger event that really makes people very, very dissatisfied with current conditions.
I think we're getting there, Kim.
when they act out of this dissatisfaction, they more easily go into the dualistic struggle and are not as open to that softer voice.
Okay, well, that's a very valuable point. So when we come back from commercial break, we're going to look at violence against yourself and how you actually can turn the other cheek. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, and I'm talking to Kim Michaels about his new book, Warrior of Peace.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-351-8614. That's 800-351-8614. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-351-8614.
Homeowners, now is the season to be thinking about your roof, because all it takes is one storm to turn a small roof problem into a major leak. If it's time for a new roof, call Sears at 888-465-9720. You can save $500 if you call right now. Sears licensed, fully insured contractors can get your roofing job done right. Just call 888-465-9720. Sears has a variety of shingles and styles that are built for long-lasting performance, and you'll save $500 if you call now. So call Sears for a free in-home consultation at 888-465-9720. Hurry, offer ends soon. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. That's Sears Roofing. Call right now and save $500. Call 888-465-9720. 888-465-9720. Call Sears now and get that roof repaired. Call 888-465-9720.
Have you ever considered adding a home security system but thought it would be too expensive? Here's the good news. There's never been a more affordable time to help protect your home, valuables, and your loved ones. You can now get a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, with the installation of a new ADT monitored system. Here's even better news. Your new system, worth $850, is free. You pay just a $99 installation charge and purchase monthly monitoring for less than $2 a day. Call Protect Your Home today at 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. Get the peace of mind that comes with owning an ADT monitored system, plus a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home. Call now, 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. 36-month monitoring contract required. General terms and conditions apply. Visit protectyourhome.com/terms.
We're back with more of Kim Michael's new book, Warrior of Peace. Kim, I ended up, as I do with all of your books, copying a lot of really good quotes. And here's another short one where you said, forcing yourself to suppress violent actions based on fear is violence against yourself. Now, I think very few people on a conscious level would be aware of that. So I'm going to read it one more time. Forcing yourself to suppress violent actions based on fear is violence against yourself. Now, would you give the audience an example of how a person could do that?
Well, we're all brought up to have a certain fear of the consequences of our actions. So let's say you get angry, for example, and instead of expressing your anger in some way, you are afraid of the punishment you will get, and so you suppress it. Okay. Now, I'm not saying here that the anger is necessarily justified or the most constructive reaction, but when you suppress it out of fear, you are committing violence against yourself because you are forcing these feelings into the subconscious mind or the emotional body. And what they'll do is they will accumulate. And as you keep doing this over time, you might eventually come to a point where this will have serious consequences for yourself. It may be that you one day lose your temper and commit some kind of really violent act that is much more violent than it would have been a year or two ago. It may be that you go into depression or substance abuse or give up on life because your emotional body just gets so burdened.
Okay. All right. No, that's very good point, because the psychologist Alice Miller talked about how when people feel abused or have been abused in some way, that when they turn the anger inward, it is going to turn into a form, it's going to affect your health, of course, but she did say that it is a form of self-punishment. because you're hurting yourself. You're angry with yourself. But a lot of other people will push the anger outward, and they will attack other people who trigger that anger in them. So it is destructive, either inward or outward.
Right, and it's necessary to recognize that we have these feelings and then find a way to deal with them in a more constructive manner so that we don't have to take it out on others. And that's sort of what the whole book is about, where the warrior gradually learns from the master how to deal with his own emotions, and instead of actually being angry with himself for the fact that he went to war and got his leg blown off, he learns to see that there was a bigger purpose behind his actions and that he can turn it into a constructive experience.
Yeah, and most people, I think that is what keeps people on this little hamster wheel or this treadmill, is not learning the lesson behind whatever has happened to them. That, my old saying is that the gift, the lesson is the gift, that you get out of any situation. And, kind of teaching people that philosophy, I think, would be very valuable in schools or in society, because it would also teach responsibility for your actions and, more of Emerson's understanding or belief in self-reliance, which I'm very much a proponent of that. And that's what the warrior was being taught in the ashram.
Yeah, you can basically look at the warrior in the book as a representative of many, many young people around the world.
Right.
Both boys and girls, but especially young men. You see them all over America, and many of them have gotten into crime, violence. Right. They are imprisoned. You see all these young people who have a long-term prison sentence that basically robs them of their entire youth.
Exactly.
You see, of course, in the Islamic world how you have all of these young men that are ready to go to jihad, simply because they have been brought up with such anger and they don't know how to deal with it in themselves, so they fall into the pattern that has always been there. You direct the anger at a scapegoat, and then you think that by killing the scapegoat, you will solve the anger. That's essentially what the pattern the warrior is trapped in the beginning of the book when he goes to war. And so I actually think that the process that is described in this book really has the potential to help a lot of young people get out of this trap of being so angry with themselves.
Okay, well, that's really important, Kim, and we're going to pick up with that point when we come back from commercial break. We're talking to Kim Michaels about his new book, Warrior of Peace. And we'll return right after commercial break. You're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Graham.
When you really want Italian food, you've got to go to Columbo's. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club, Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. If you haven't been to Columbo's, you don't know what you're missing. Delicious food. The steaks on this side are fabulous. The seafood so fresh and flavorful. Columbo's family Italian specialties are Southern California legendary, and the meatballs, the best in the West, North, South, and East. Plus service that's friendly but not fawning, and jazz every night, and it's also affordable. That's what makes Columbo's special, and they make special easy, whether for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That's why when you really want Italian food, you've got to go to Columbo's, because it really is that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Columbo's, making special easy every day. Columbo's, mangia.
Are you worried about losing your home to foreclosure? If you've been threatened with foreclosure or receive legal papers from your bank, you have approximately 30 days to respond. If you do not respond, you could lose your home. You have rights. Act now to protect your rights. You can stay in your home. Many times you can even modify your loan. The bottom line is you can get past this, but you must act right now. If you've been served by your bank and you're worried about losing your home to foreclosure, now is the time to fight back and save your home. Time is limited, so call the professionals at National Foreclosure Defense right now.
800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. 800-515-6309. That number again is 800-515-6309.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
If you make the decision to buy the home, then you're faced with what's next. What do we do?
We started at Realtor.com.
Realtor.com gave us a lot more current information.
Listings are pulled directly from the MLS every 15 minutes.
Once you've gone through all of that, the Realtor makes it happen.
We worked with the Realtor that really knew the area.
And he knew the market.
When you have someone who has the expertise, it makes it so much easier.
Realtor.com and Realtors. Together, we make home happen. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
The Doug Stephan Good Day program, early morning radio, and I guess it is radio, although it's radio on TV because this is CRN Digital Talk. You can find out what's going on in the world. We talk about the issues of the day, the events of the day, the people that people are talking about. We have an interesting way of looking at the news and having a little fun with the issues. So if you want to have some fun, learn a few things, and get up on the right side of the world, Doug Stephan's Good Day program, weekday mornings, 2 to 7 a.m. on CRN Digital Talk.
Okay, we're back with more of Kim Michaels and his new book, Warrior of Peace. Kim, I do agree that the warrior in the book is an archetype for today's youth, in particular those that are looking for meaning and purpose in their lives. And the warrior felt that going off to defend the country after it had been attacked would, bring some type of meaning to his life. And I find that is what's missing in the lives of many young people today, especially after they graduate from college and get a job and they go, the house and the car. So this is all there is. So I think that's
it's very
important.
true that, so many people are looking for that meaning, and I'm thinking about the many young people also who never had a chance to go to college, never really have a chance to get a good job, who are stuck in basically what we see in many countries around the world where you have this very, very high youth unemployment.
Yes.
And they feel that they have dreams, they have intentions, they feel that their life must mean something, but they see no way to express it. And that's when they very easily get trapped into this anger of reacting against somebody who's to blame for their misery. And that's what the warrior does in the book. He identifies an outer enemy. And if we reach back to what we talked about with Nelson Mandela and Gandhi, Nelson Mandela might have started out as an angry social activist, but by being put in jail, he overcame that anger. And I think, he realized that fighting against the machine actually magnifies the problem in the world, and that a new approach was needed. And that's what I see, that all of the wise people have come to this same conclusion, that nonviolence is the only way forward, and the only way to be nonviolent is to first control your own mind. And so really the goal that the book puts up is that the first goal for anybody, if they really want to have a positive life and have a positive impact on the world, is to learn to control your own mind so you can break the reactionary spiral that we are put in.
Well, that is a lifetime process, I believe, because if you talk to anybody, including myself, listening to your own thoughts, that's really scary. And it's no wonder you see people, they have to have the radio or the television on all the time, because what's going on inside their heads is pretty disturbing.
Yeah, but I also feel that, on the other hand, yes, it goes on for a lifetime, but we can very quickly come to a point where we have a completely different approach to life than what we were brought up with. And I think many spiritual people, millions of spiritual people in the Western world, have exemplified that already.
Yes, that's absolutely true. But I'm saying, when you look at young people, they're not being taught, to make their head a pleasant place to live.
No.
They're not being taught meditation tools, and that, your thoughts are not necessarily all your own, that you're tapping into the collective unconscious. And sometimes when you have a crazy thought and you go, where'd that come from? It has nothing to really do with you. You just bumped into, the thoughts of all the people around you.
Yes, but we still have the opportunity in a relatively free society to look at things and say, do I really want to go into the same pattern as everybody else? And this is what the warrior does in the book. He realizes that going to war was not what he thought it was. He was not actually helping his country. He was just being pulled into what he calls the machine. Mm-hmm. And that's what I call the reactionary pattern, where basically your life is set on a track. You're talking about those who go to college, who get a job, and then they have to pay back the mortgage and the student loan, and they are locked in.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about the ones who never get an education, never get an opportunity, and they're also locked in.
Right.
And for both, the way out is to say, I don't want to spend my entire life in this reactionary spiral. Mm-hmm. And the way to break out of it is to stop the reactionary patterns in my own mind. And that's what the book really talks about, step by step, how you can do that in practical terms.
And I can relate to the character in many ways myself, and also with the many young people that I choose to mentor and help. There's this sense in the beginning that you are helpless, and that it's not you that's doing this, it's the machine that's doing it to you, and that's the way the character was thinking. And, trying to grow out of that, this is being done to me, and, being responsible for your thoughts and your actions, and understanding that you are participating in this whole scenario in some way, and therefore you have some responsibility.
Yeah, because you're participating because you have a reactionary pattern in your own mind that is pulling you in. And most people, the way we've been brought up, we are just easy victims for the machine. It's so easy to get us to go into this reactionary spiral. And I think when we see this, we also see that it is actually quite easy to break out of it with a few instructions.
Tools. And it's taken me, like in the 3 years that I've been using the tools on your website, Kim, I have, at first it feels like it's a slow and painful process, and for me it was. But looking back at the progress that I've made inside of myself in terms of not reacting to the world around me in the same way, and to the people around me in the same way, and not giving my power away the way that I was before. I wasn't even aware that I was giving my power away. So I would say I've come such a long way, I don't even recognize myself sometimes. And I feel very blessed, and I feel very, very grateful, because I had to go through that process. I didn't get to go into an ashram. That would have been really nice. But It was work, but I'm so glad that I did the work, because the inner calm and the inner peace that I have now amidst the storms of life, it doesn't mean that the storms aren't happening. I'm just not reacting to them the same way. But it doesn't mean that I'm not doing anything about it. You know, I'm still speaking out. I'm still, I get on my little soapbox sometimes, but I don't feel disempowered the way that I did 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about today is that we don't have to go to an ashram. You have the old saying, if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, or whatever it is. So if the student won't come to the ashram has to come to the student. And that's, in a sense, what the books and the teachings of the Ascended Masters are about, because they are saying we don't have to isolate ourselves and withdraw from society in order to be spiritual people in today's world. In fact, in the Aquarian age, it is much more of a goal to be part of society but still walk the spiritual path.
Yeah. Well, I think Jesus was saying the same thing when he said to be in the world but not of it. That's a real balance that all of us have to put in some work and maybe some experience. But when I go back to the warrior, and unfortunately he couldn't learn any way other than the School of Hard Knocks, and he had to lose his leg before he actually got the lesson. I always, am pulling for young people and saying, okay, look, you don't have to try and learn everything through experience, because you're not going to live long enough, to to learn everything from experience, learn from other people's experience. So I was like that about the warrior. I felt bad for him, but I also understood he really couldn't have gotten it any other way.
Yeah, and that is very hard to watch that, especially when there's people close to you,
yes,
such as your own children,
yes,
or students you have in school.
Absolutely.
And we would obviously like to spare our children for that, but then I think back at how I wasn't willing to listen to my parents on certain issues and had to have my own experiences, and I think that's true for all of us. And now the warrior, of course, got really hurt, but he also found a way to make peace with that.
Well, let's talk about this. Here's the quote that the shorter quote came from. Refraining, this is from your book, refraining from taking physical action is not the same as turning the other cheek. And you're talking about if someone, hits you or harms you or hurts you. Many people feel disempowered when attacked, or they are afraid that they do not have the power to defeat their attacker. Now that, I think is classic, Kim, is people feel afraid, and powerless when someone attacks them physically, verbally, or emotionally. So could you elaborate on what could be done in a situation like that could realistically diffuse that situation from the inside of that person?
Well, the context of, that the quote is taken from is that the warrior, of course, has to find a way to not react with anger or not take his anger out by taking these physical actions, such as going to war. Mm-hmm. And so what the master is trying to tell him is that the only way to avoid being pulled into this reactionary spiral with a machine is to turn the other cheek. But turning the other cheek is not just a matter of not taking outer action. It's also a matter of controlling your inner reactions. Mm-hmm. Because if you feel, if you are afraid of what the reprisal is going to be from your attacker, and therefore you submit to the attack,
yes,
then you will take your anger inwards, and you will actually end up feeling anger against yourself, and that can lead to self-hatred, which is what the warrior had when he comes to the ashram. And so there's actually a long section in the book where the master is trying to take the warrior out of this self-hatred and the anger against himself, feeling guilty for having done something stupid. And I think it's very profound what the master teaches him, and where he really makes him see that turning the other cheek means that you have no reaction to what your attacker is doing. And therefore, your attacker has no power over you. He cannot force you into a reactionary pattern.
Yeah. Well, you know, that is, you do have some powerful symbols and archetypes in the book and tools that, you know, I think are so universal that pretty much everybody will be able to relate to them. I forget what you call them. They're towards the end of the book where you're using the metaphor of the animals.
Yeah, I mean, I forget myself now.
Okay, well, it's in the book.
But we're talking about the 7 animal pairs that are representing the reactionary patterns we have. And where the master teaches, it's actually based on the warrior having a dream. At first he sees a bear. And at first the bear is very peaceful, and then it rears up and roars at him. And then the master shows him that there's always an opposite polarity to the bear, which symbolizes a certain quality. And then the opposite is the raven, which is waiting for the bear to die because it doesn't have the power to defeat the bear. And so he takes him through these 7 animal pairs that actually correspond to the 7 chakras.
Yes.
And so it's a symbol for purifying the 7 chakras.
Okay. Well, in Kim's defense, I will say Kim has published over 40 books. So, Kim, I'm very impressed that you can remember any of this stuff. Because when I write, you know, especially you're channeling, and I don't want to use the word channeling, but it's a stream of consciousness is coming through, and when I'm writing through stream of consciousness, I don't remember anything I wrote. So I'm impressed that you. No,
but you also have to realize I proofread my own books as well, so I do go through them a lot of times. So.
Well, this point that you're making about, well, here's the end of that quote from your book, where the master says, "Only when you are free from fear and feel only love can you truly turn the other cheek." And the 2 instances that I can think of visually where I got it, you know, this quote was in Revolver and in The Peaceful Warrior, those 2 movies where in Revolver, in the elevator scene, the Guy Ritchie comes out and Ray Liotta has a gun pointed at his face. And he has already transformed his ego, you know, fighting with himself, you know, in the elevator. And he comes out so peaceful that when he sees the gun, you know, it's just that look on his face, you know, that Ray Liotta can't come, you know, that's real power versus force, and Ray Liotta can't even pull the trigger because the guy doesn't fear him and he really wants to be feared. And it was the same thing in The Peaceful Warrior on the tower where his ego confronts him, and in that moment the ego is trying to pull him off of the tower, and the guy says, it's you I have to let go of. And when he lets go of his own ego, that's when he's safe. So those, you know, for people that are reading the book, I think that those 2 visuals are very powerful imageries to help you understand what Kim is talking about when he says turn the other cheek. It's not having fear around what the other person is doing to you. Was that accurate, Kim?
Yeah, there's actually a book that I read years ago, which of course I've forgotten the title of, but it's a doctor who hypnotically regresses people to past lives. You know, and he also shows that many people, when they refuse to play the victim, their attacker can't go through with it.
All right. Okay, so we'll be back wrapping this up after commercial break, so hold on to that thought, Kim.
Hi, folks. This is Larry Minetti, and many of you out there suffer from skin problems. Well, I've been telling you for months how to solve that problem. It's called Herpanicin. It's the most unique and effective formula on the market. It cleans your skin from the inside out. It gets rid of all kinds of acne on your back, your neck, your face, so you can feel and you could look like a movie star. Herpanicin is a natural supplement. It was created by Dr. Wayne Diamond and his staff, and trust me, this really works. I've been on these supplements for over a year now and never had a problem. There is no reason in the world to wake up and be afraid to look in the mirror. You trust Larry. Just try it. Call 888-467-4200. 888-467-4200.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Kaanapali Beach Hotel, Maui's Hawaiian Hotel.
Located in the heart of Maui's premier resort, Kaanapali Beach Hotel is officially recognized as Hawaii's most Hawaiian hotel and the #1 best value in Hawaii. With a range of accommodations and affordable dining options, this is the ideal setting to turn Hawaiian dreams into lifelong memories. Live Hawaiian entertainment every evening, free year-round children's programs, weekly arts and crafts fairs, welcome breakfast, and departure kukui lei ceremonies add to the value. Swim in the whale-shaped pool, indulge in the fabulous spa and hotel salon. Enjoy Hawaiian hospitality at its best at the Kaanapali Beach Hotel. Call 800-262-8450 or go to kvhmaui.com. That's kvhmaui.com. Aloha.
Kaanapali Beach Hotel, Maui's Hawaiian Hotel.
Okay, we're back with more of Divine Love Talk on CRN. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, and I am interviewing my co-host, Kim Michaels, about his new book, Warrior of Peace. Kim, I wanted you to go ahead and expand on the point that you were on before commercial break, because I think it's really important to drive this home.
Well, the larger issue in our lives is really what the book calls the human dilemma. And it is that we live in a world that's forcing us to react and make choices. And we often feel like we're trapped because no matter what choice we make, it has unpleasant consequences.
Right.
And the larger point of the book is that no matter what crisis you have been through in your life, by taking command over your own mind, you can actually turn that crisis into a positive forward step. Yeah. And so I think in a way the book is a crisis survival manual when you read between the lines.
That's an excellent point, because I definitely related to the step-by-step process and that you gave in the book, because that ironically is the process that I've gone through myself in terms of, coming to peace with myself and making the decision, that I don't want to be at war with myself or with anyone else, and that the real war that's being waged is inside of us. The book brings that home very, very well, and I think with anyone who is suppressing their reactions, the the place, when you get to that place where people can do and say really crazy, mean, or spiteful things to you, and you can observe it and look at it and go, wow, that's that person's stuff, and it really has nothing to do with me, and I don't really need to react to it, that's when you know that you've done some pretty good work in terms of monitoring how you react to any given situation. So I think that's the place that you probably want people to get to from reading the book. Kim?
Yeah, we started talking about control games, and we've all been exposed to people who want to control us. Mm-hmm. And the way they control us is by forcing us to react a certain way.
Yes.
And as soon as we go into this reactionary spiral, they have power over us.
Exactly.
So when we come to see how we are reacting to other people's control games, we can free ourselves from our own reactionary spirals. And that means we don't have to change the other person.
Right.
By just changing ourselves, we can come to that point where we can look at that person and we know, I'm completely free of you. You can't force me into these old patterns.
Exactly.
It's like Jesus saying, the prince of this world comes and has nothing in me.
Yes, that's a quote that, you use a lot in, throughout quite a few of your books. And I used to go, wow, when will that day come where he has nothing in me? And I think this book brings home, the process where you can get to that place where there is nothing in you but love. And so whenever anyone pushes a button, you're able to look at them through the eyes of compassion or rationality, at least.
That is true.
Okay. Well, Kim, I thank you so much for the body of work that you continue to just pour out upon us. And I want to say again, look out for Kim Michaels coming to L.A. June 17th through the 19th. July 17th through the 19th at the beautiful Americana on Brand.
See you there, I hope.
Oh, definitely.
Favorite talk radio shows sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high-definition digital sound? Well, with CRN Digital Talk Radio's 6 channels of high